top end.
Welcome again to JW Night Talk. So, good thing I have a sound tech here to remind me when my sound is on. So, I hope everyone's evening is going well. Everything's good here, I think, on the mic. So, we have a couple of big subjects up for tonight. Now, it is evening here where I am. It's 5 p.m. So I get west sun coming in right through this window. So I play with the lighting in the studio. It's temporary. We're just in the process of moving. So we kind of have a temporary studio going. But tonight we're talking about some interesting subjects. And you notice I put it out as a question mark. And we had a lot of feedback. In fact, a lot of people were quite, some were offended. I thought it would be a positive thing. But anyways, we're gonna go to the news source, and the newspaper magazine that we got this out of from Nigeria, credible news outlet. We'll show you. They printed another article. And in the other article, it said they talked to some local elders. And the local elders said they heard nothing about this. So it looks like it was... I'm not going to use the word misinformation because this is a credible news agency and they didn't retract anything. They just talked about talking to the elders and it wasn't true. So that's all they did. They just reprinted another article. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Now, the other thing I want to talk about tonight, just before we get going, is just as a friendly reminder here. And I'm going to do a screen capture here. There we go. So we want to keep in mind the Be Free 2023. Now, I went on the website. And Be Free 2023, in case you're not aware of this, you can go onto their website. It's simply befree2023.com. And they updated their website, so there's a lot more information on the website talking all about the protest that's coming up. And it's October 31st, 2023, 10 a.m. to 3:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is at the White House. In case you're not aware of where that is, it's 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C. Join our protest, and it talks about our mission: put an end to concealment of child sexual abuse in high control groups and religious institutions. It is important that all governments and states are required to establish a mandatory reporting system for clergy to safeguard children. Shunning or disfellowshipping in these groups deprives members of their right to religious freedom. Former members are often pressured to remain in the group to maintain their relationships with family members and social networks. To promote harmony and equality and well-being for all human beings, and to safeguard the rights of children and religious members. Let them be free. So a really nice job, whoever did this. Now, I went on to the Be Free site. We have emails right from them, and they've asked us to promote their material. And we don't really know a lot about who's behind the scenes. It's in a lot of these situations, we're finding that I'm finding, and I'm new into this, that there's a lot of anonymous people, and we're going to show you one other at the very end of the program. One other anonymous person that I would give a 5-star Grammy Award to. And I think his videos are vital. One of his videos are vital to waking up for any of us. And it's so well done. It's done to Watchtower quality. And we're going to take a look at that, and I have his permission to show his video. And I'm going to show you his site because he's trying to get to 1,000 and he's not there yet. So that's one. So Be Free. When I went to a Be Free and I looked at About Us, I would like to do a separate show on this and just talk about that and read all about the Be Free. And we will coming up. We're going to advertise this once a month. So we encourage you guys to take a look. You can contact them and you can send them a message if you need to. They have some excellent resources. I went to the resources and I looked at their videos. And they have some really good videos on the Royal Commission. They have all kinds of excellent videos. Some of the videos they have are done by some, I was looking at this one here, it's done by Owen.
Jehovah's Witnesses
and he does some really good videos. If you don't know who he is, you can check him out, his site. And he does cult breakdown. Here's Berean Pickett's. I've watched his videos, really good videos. So there's a lot of good activists on this side of the fence. And whoever did this site, thank you very much. You guys are doing some great work. Keep up the great work. So we're going to move on. We're going to get right into this article. And this is the article, Jehovah's Witnesses can now receive blood transfusions, their Council of Elders declares. Now, before we get into this, we're going to go back to this and we're going to break this apart, this video, or this article, and take a look at it. But before we do that, I want to take a moment and just show you guys what we do. We look at Contact Us. So here, with this article, because I'm using it, I actually contacted them. And I contacted them through my email. And I simply, they have their emails there. So I said, I'm a researcher for XJW News. Give them my name, my YouTube channel, Fixing My Faith. Then I showed the video, that little video clip that I did at the beginning of this one. And I said to him, I'm doing a live on Tuesday featuring this article you printed along with the follow-up. And I showed the two articles, or two news clips. And then I tell him your information from the JW was noted from strategic media. So this is all the research I could find. We're going to take a look at it. And so I'm asking them, I'm saying, do you have the source on the JW News change? Because they didn't retract it. You know, so I'd kind of like to know more information. We'll look at this closely. Now, I also just don't go on stuff like this. So we go a little further when we look at people. So I went into their website here. And I went right into, you can go in and chat with them. I had a chat with this lady. Opened up a chat, but then she wanted to sell me her magazine, and she said I could get my money back, but they wanted my visa. But all this stuff is kind of, that's how they make a living, right? So they sell magazines. And I wanted to know more about this company. And so what I did here is I went About Us and close this. So I read all about us, the source. You know, they were incorporated in 1996. Summit Publications. And it goes on to talk about the team. It's led by professionals. The first winner of the Nigeria Media Merit Award, MMMA. Reporter of the Year Prize, 1991. As publisher, editor-in-chief, the source. And it shows their location, their address, and everything. So we wanted to know more about these guys. So we went to Google, and we went right on the street here. And you can see behind me, you can go right in. I noticed there was I went right here, there was a cop car there with a cop right in the thing there, but you couldn't see him. But anyways, it is legit. It's right here in Nigeria, and you can zoom right in on this. There's their sign there. So I'm just going to zoom in. So it's right there. Oops. Zoom in. There. So you see it right there. There's their sign, the source. It says news news from the depths rooted in time. So I guess it must speak English there. I checked out the street and everything. Now I'm going to get out of here and go back to this view here. I think I got to exit here. There we go. So here we are. There it is on the map. So I'm going to zoom out just so we can get an idea where this is in Nigeria. There it is. Because it's a big place. Look at how big Nigeria is. I didn't realize the size of the place here. But here we are. This is kind of a main... Oh, I guess my head's in the way. Sorry. There. So, I hope you guys seen some of that. So there it is, Nigeria. And the Watchtower, I went to the Watchtower site to look at Nigeria. And they said in 2018 they were in there for some hurricane relief. So, other than that, that's all I have on this, the source. The Watchtower, oh no, that's something else we're going to go to. Okay. So now, getting back to the article here, because we have so many of you guys online here that are curious to this article. So we're going to go back right to the article. Jehovah's Witnesses can now receive blood transfusions, their Council of Elders declares. Now, because we had so much interest, I posted all the source material in the descriptions of everything. So a lot of you that have had questions already read this stuff. But I was wondering if you didn't read this one. So this was printed September 8th, 2019. So it's not new. This is old news, really. But our researchers, my researcher, pulls up this news, and then I look at it and I said, wow, there's something here. There's something happening. And I want to talk about this later. But first of all, this article comes out then October 10th, a month later. And it says, blood transfusions, there is no doctrinal change by Jehovah's Witness, says spokesperson. So is it the same guy, author Uch McBa? Yeah, Uch McBa, same author. Same picture, a bunch of people at a Kingdom Hall singing. So this second article, just to get to the point of this, the Jehovah's Witness has denied any knowledge of any doctrinal change within the organization, contrary to reports that there is fresh directives for them to start receiving blood transfusions. So that's what they're saying. Then they're saying Jehovah's Witnesses as a group do not accept blood transfusions as an organization, believing that such acts are not biblical. The magazine had written a story indicating there has been a shift in the doctrine of the organization. And that was the previous article. We will read that. It says here, it goes on to say it's based its news on information from a website which detailed an alleged release from the elders of the organization indicating a shift in doctrinal focus. A website which detailed an alleged release from elders of the organization indicating a shift of doctrinal focus. So that's what I'm after. I'm chasing that story by email. Now, it goes on to say the website later pulled the story when the source story went up. But the local spokesman of the Jehovah's Witness, Jama Onwubawari, has said he is not aware of such doctrinal changes. So that's they probably had to go down to the local Kingdom Hall. They probably printed this stuff thinking, hey, this is cool. You know, Jehovah's Witnesses are finally getting with the program. You know, it's a matter of conscience now for military service. Like the letter, we'll go back to it. It says all of these things. And probably the source that wrote this, got their information and said, this is great. And they wanted to help publicize it. That's one thing. You know, everyone likes to think the most negative. and they like to think that everyone's out there trying to scam everyone. I'm not gonna say that for someone that you can find their address and see them on Google, and there's a cop car down the street. So anyways, I like it when our researchers, my good wife, can take it that far for us, and it makes my job easy. But anyways, this local spokesman, probably a local elder, presiding overseer probably, or probably maybe a circuit overseer or something, who knows, has said he is not aware of such doctrinal change. In my capacity as a local spokesman of the Jehovah's Witness, this is what he's saying, this elder or whatever, I am not aware of such doctrinal changes by the witnesses, nor was any such communication shared by the organization through any of the numerous channels by which Jehovah's Witnesses disseminate their information regarding their belief and activities. So that's what we believed at the beginning. Like, why wouldn't this all be on JW.org if they're going to make that kind of a change? So for all of you guys out there that felt the same way as we did, congratulations. Because there is a lot of fake news, and we're still trying to figure out this bit of news and where this article came from, and I want to talk about this. But anyways, let's carry on. It says, this being a direct relation from the organization is now officially stated by this magazine that the former story is hereby retracted in its entirety and apologies tendered by the source. So they did retract the whole story because they must have got this from a circuit overseer. Maybe they got this from the branch office. Now, I'm still kind of chasing these guys down, and I want to find out who the alleged release from elders of the organization indicating a shift of doctrinal focus is. To think that a magazine company that has is that highly accredited in that state would get hooped makes me wonder. Now, there's one other source they kind of pointed out here, and it's right here. I'm going to see if you guys can see this. I can put my face back on here if that's better for you guys. Sometimes you want to see someone talking. There. Okay, so you notice up there, right here, strategic media. So they said below is a directive from the council, according to Strategic Media Nigeria. So I went into Strategic Media of Nigeria, and this is what I found. I did some searching on that, and I couldn't find much really, but it said strategic media communications and stakeholders engagement in government policies. I don't even know if that's true, if I'm even looking at the right thing. But anyways, what this goes on to say is that the mass media in Nigeria, as in other democracies, is considered to be an integral component of government and governance. So it's almost like the media and the government are really highly hooked together. I know in Russia and some other countries, it's the media and the government really are solid. So I'm not sure in Nigeria. If you guys have more information, let me know. That's as far as I could get on this. But they did retract it, so obviously it's false. But now this leads me to believe, I know in our country, there's no way we're going to get something like that in front of the news and get them to actually print it and state it. It's very unlikely. I guess stuff does happen and they have to retract it. But anyways, then I opened my discussion, and that's why I wanted to do a live with you guys, is I want to read this. And whoever did this article was a genius. Like I would think this would have to come almost from the Watchtower themselves, from the writing committee, or someone that's really smart to write this stuff. Because it made so much sense to me. But let's read through it. Here's the directive. It says, there's an appointed time for everything, a time for every activity under the heavens. Ecclesiastes 3 and verse 1. It's just like the Watchtower would say. We are writing to you at this time to convey to you as a number of fundamental changes being implemented at this time. We recognize that some of these adjustments may prove disconcerting to our brothers and sisters. We trust that a spirit of love and forgiveness will ensure all to make the transitions detailed here. Romans 12 and 2. Just like the Watchtower reading it. It says, adjustments to our teaching and beliefs. After much heartfelt deliberation and prayer, we are no longer under the belief that the Gentile times spoken about in Daniel chapter 4 ran its prophetic course and concluded at the beginning of our 20th century. Previously, we have asserted that this period of time commenced in the year 607 BCE and concluded about the fall of 1914 CE, and we now believe this to be in error. Could you imagine? The Watchtower admitting that 1914 was an error. Like, this is what they have to do. This is what the Watchtower has to do, because we all know, XJWs on this side of the fence, we all know that it was error. And what I'm finding out on this channel is there's a lot of people inside the religion that don't believe it, but they're still inside. They're kind of trapped inside because of family and because of whatever. But they're in there, and they're doing a lot of this work from within inside the religion. So thank you to all of you ones inside, and we will do what we can to keep your insideness secret, because we need to publicize some of your good work. But anyways, to me, this could be some inside work, in my opinion. Now, it goes on to say that we are no longer under the belief of 1914. Like, we all know 1914 was BS. Now, here it goes on to say, previously we have asserted, we now believe that this to be an error. That's where we are. Sorry for got messed up there. So we're right here. If you're following along, we're going to read this portion. After much research and study, we have come to realize that this teaching is one which arose as a central aspect of the 19th century Adventism, which is so influenced by our brother, Charles Taze Russell, and his early associates, and continued to be promoted throughout much of our history. While at times we have endeavored to understand the prophetic teachings of Daniel and Revelation with regard to the time that God's rulership would be trampled upon by the nations, and made certain calculations according to this period, we must admit that this Adventist practice entails human speculation without sound scriptural basis. Very, very well said. And if you do the research on Charles Taze Russell, it was all an Adventist start. His whole start was in 1978, was with this Adventist guy, Miller. They split off, and Miller became the Millerites. I don't know if I have that all right, but I know it's Miller. Now, it goes on to say here, we continue to maintain, we're going to read this section together. We continue to maintain that the advent or coming of Christ Jesus is to be expected by the faithful and possibly not too far in our future. And while we continue to believe that there are many events and conditions which seem to signify that we may indeed be in the last days spoken of by our Lord, we must in humility admit that we do not know for certain either that we are yet in the time of the nations or when the end of the system of things may be expected. And they gave the right scriptures. They gave Matthew 24 and 3, 2 Timothy 3 and 1, Leviticus, Matthew 25 and 13, because the Bible clearly says no one will know the time or the day. And if you do the research, it seems like every 1,000 years, 1,000 years in from Jesus, they thought the end was coming. Well, they thought the end was coming right after Jesus died. And then a lot of sects came about and little religious groups, and there's a big study there. And it seems like everyone wants the end to come. Well, life in a lot of the world, I think the world's better now than it was in some senses, but in some senses, no. But it seems like there's always this fighting, and everyone wants something better. So religion comes along, and religion makes all kinds of promises and gets all kinds of followers. And then you have religions fighting against religions. So is things better? No. So anyways, this is good. I'm getting off topic here. Could you imagine the Watchtower admitting that, hey, this is all kind of BS? And then they go on in the letter. It says, it is with new understanding that we must embrace the year 1914 has no scriptural prophetic significance. So, and it's true, 1914 has no scriptural prophetic significance. In the past, we have held firmly to the belief that 1914 signifies Christ's invisible return and the beginning of the last days, including the restriction to Earth's vicinity of Satan and the demons. Many times we have sought a greater understanding of the meaning of Jesus' words rendering the generation that would not pass away at Matthew 24 and 34. Although these attempts to understand the meaning of the scriptures were undoubtedly sincere, they were predicated upon the understanding that 1914 CE was a significant year in the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. In light of our adjusted understanding, we must further state that we do not know the modern-day identification of that generation, if there is one, or whether Jesus intended a greater meaning than what he purposed to convey to his immediate followers when he uttered those words. And that's the truth. That's the way it should be said. Very well said. So it goes on to say, consequently, we must now acknowledge that we have been overly presumptuous. And the organization, Jehovah's Witnesses, from the founder of Russell, have been overly presumptuous in identifying that the faithful and discreet slave spoken of by Jesus as being closely identified with the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. So could you imagine the governing body saying, we admit that we were presumptuous to appoint ourselves? And that's what has to happen. We all know it. But we think these things, but now this is a newspaper in Nigeria printing this out. And for a month, for a whole 30 days, everyone in that country, and if they didn't read the follow-up, they still would believe it. So could you imagine, this is an interesting article. Now, it goes on to say previously, in this letter, it says previously we, and it's talking like the governing body's writing to the branch or something. It says previously we have stated that the governing body is neither inspired nor infallible. However, we must further clarify that the governing body has no claim to the fulfillment of Jesus' illustration and no special role in providing divine truths or teachings to the household, which is Jehovah God's people. In the future, the governing body will continue to focus on providing spiritual food to the best of our ability with no claims of special authority or divine directive. Could you imagine, folks, if the governing body actually printed this and sent this out? Like, this is what would have to happen, in my mind, for this organization to clean its act up. This would have to happen, and more. And we're going to read more. Now, this would be exciting. When I read this, I was excited. I was excited for a few days, just like you were excited. And then my good wife says, don't get too excited. And she pulls out all the other stuff. But anyways, turning now to another important matter, we wish to discuss an adjustment in the way that members of the congregation are treated in circumstances involving commission of serious sin and other transgressions against others or against Jehovah's laws and principles. Previously, these matters have been handled with some confidentiality by the local body of elders. At times, it was deemed necessary that a brother or sister who was understood to be unrepentant or otherwise potentially a hazard to the welfare of the congregation would be disassociated or disfellowshipped from the association of Jehovah's Witnesses, according to 1 Corinthians 5 and 13. However, a consideration of the theocratic procedures outlined at Matthew 18:15-17 reveals the proper steps that members of the congregation should undertake when faced with a fellow member who has committed a serious sin. As clearly outlined, the first step should be to confront privately and direct the person who has committed such a serious sin. And directly the person who has committed it, right? So you go to the person. This need not be done in any formal way, nor by the elders of the congregation solely, nor does there need to be more than one person confronting the errant member, as Matthew 18:15 clearly shows this to be a personal endeavor to correct the sinning member of the congregation. As stated in the continuing verse, only after the unrepented member persists in wrongful conduct or belief should it further be endeavored with the help of one or two others to correct the matter. Only if after these attempts have been made to correct the sinning member of the congregation, should the matter be set before the whole congregation. As Matthew 18:17 clearly states, the whole matter should be spoken about before the whole congregation in an open and frank discussion. So that would mean all the sisters would have equal share in this discussion. This is because each member of the congregation will bear the personal responsibility of whether they wish to continue in brotherly fellowship with the person, or whether they wish to treat the person as someone who stands outside the congregation. In ancient Israel, it was similar that each member of the congregation would have a hand in rendering the judgment and carrying out any discipline that might result. Deuteronomy 17:7. And when people get involved, then you find out that not a lot of people want to get involved. Some of these little things, they just, why are we even talking about it? It's serious stuff. If there's a threat to the congregation, then it's worth a discussion. Let's say there's, someone's going through a divorce in the congregation, and the elders can't protect the wife from an abusive husband. In fact, the elders lots of times take the side of the abuser because they take the side of the male and the two-witness rule and all that old stuff. But this is where we want to have a discussion, because if that's happening, maybe a restraining order would have, maybe the sister would have to go and get a restraining order and need support to get police help. And then you get a restraining order to help the sister, The whole congregation could talk about that, but I'm not sure nowadays with privacy laws. This is dicey, even with privacy laws. So anyways, I don't know if I agree with this completely, but I guess if you're trying to run a church, that's why I think it's better to be an on-the-couch Christian, because who really cares? You guys are all online here. I don't know any of you guys. I like you guys. You're online. That's cool. But, in a congregation, there's just so much more crap to deal with. Like, we can learn and be spiritual on the couch. We don't have to go to the Kingdom Hall and deal with all this stuff. So anyways, I think it's kind of good what they said there. I'm going to carry on. Therefore, after the matter has been spoken about to the whole congregation, and I don't know if it's fair to talk to the whole congregation about someone's problem. I don't think that's right. But anyways, here's what's in the letter. After the matter has been spoken about to the whole congregation, each person as an individual must decide for him or herself whether to continue in association with the wrongdoer. It may be that some will choose not to continue any association with such a person, and it may be that others may decide that they may continue associating with the person. In either case, it is not for anyone to judge the conscience of another. And I agree with that. Like if there's shunning, there's personal shunning. Like you might have not want your kids associating with certain kids, for reasons. You want to raise your kids according to your standards. There's personal reasons to do things. Now, let's carry on. Special care should be taken not to criticize the decisions of others in these matters, with the solemn recognition that every person shall ultimately be accountable to Jehovah God for his or her own life decisions and course of conduct, Romans. At this time, we must discuss the treatment of a very serious issue within our whole worldwide association, namely the matter of child sexual abuse. Now, this is the one I'm interested in, to see what these guys have come up with, whoever wrote this. And hopefully we find out where the source is of this stuff. Sounds like there's a little group, maybe in Nigeria, that's we should be working with. I don't know. But we don't want to get out false news. I think false news is not right. If that's it creates chaos, but I'm more for true news. I want true news. If this is something that these guys are really looking at doing in Nigeria, I'd like to know more about it. It says, while we have at times acknowledged, just going back to the letter, while we have at times acknowledged that Jehovah's people have not escaped the scourge of child sexual abuse and that there have been some instances of this occurring even among Jehovah's Witnesses, it must now be confessed that in some serious ways we have failed to protect the flocks at times. No shit. Like, I don't know what to say there, but they've left so many people high and dry when it comes to CSA. This is just terrible. But anyways, let's see what these guys say. In no small part, this was due to the instance that there be at least 2 witnesses of serious wrongdoing within the congregation, according to Deuteronomy and John and blah, blah, blah. And at other times, over concern for the reputation of the congregation, discouraged our brothers from appealing to outside authorities or even reporting these matters. That's just a big excuse. While this scriptural principle is generally sound in many cases, it must be admitted that in typical circumstances involving child sexual abuse, it is unlikely that a second witness will arise or that one committing such an abuse will confess to his or her actions. Well, I guess the infant, how can a young child, like, that's obvious. It's taken 150 years for someone in the if this is coming from the branch, or is this just someone wishing that the organization is going to do this? I don't know, but it got into the news. It goes on to say, we therefore deem it only reasonable that the procedures as outlined in Matthew 18 in dealing with persons who have committed serious sins be followed in situations involving allegations of child sexual abuse, but with sensible modifications, that the sinner need not first be confronted by the victim, and that in any open discussion of such matters, the sensitivity of the victims and the young members of the congregation be considered. Additionally, and more importantly, while it is up to the congregation to deal with the sin of the matter, it is not up to the congregation to deal with the crime, if any, of the matter. So this is, I think, where the Jehovah's Witness organization has to make a big change. Child sex abuse is a crime. It's not a sin. So now it's a crime. It has to go outside the congregation because we don't have cities of refuge within the world anymore. So if someone commits a crime, they have to go before the judicial system of that country. And now here's what it goes on to say. It is not up to the congregation to deal with the crime, if any, of the matter. Congregation elders and members of the congregation are neither trained nor equipped to deal with allegations or instances of child sex abuse as a matter for the congregation only. And in capital letters it says here, and this is the way this should be said if all over the world. In all instances of child sex abuse, appropriate local law enforcement are to be contacted immediately. It is these superior authorities that must investigate and ultimately render civil and criminal justice to these situations, and only they who can make any determination about the criminality of the situation. We realize that there are many within our worldwide brotherhood and many who are now outside of it who have been terribly hurt by this issue and by our general failings in this area. We can only offer our utmost and heartfelt apology at this time and resolve that going forward these matters will be treated in the appropriate way. Regarding the issue of accepting blood transfusions and blood components, we hereby announce that henceforth these matters will be one of personal conscience. So we finished up the child sex abuse, and we just did a thing about a heartfelt apology. And like even today, Jehovah's Witnesses, look in my last video, about 920 million is being paid out in Australia. So out of the 21 in Australia, 21,500 cases, only 10,000 have been paid out. There's a backlog. So I just think it's like there's a lot of stuff coming out. And if Australia is a start, this is just going to take off. But anyways, they're not getting heartfelt apologies.
You're good.
Oh yeah, there's a little bit of a lighting issue. The light comes up here. I didn't notice it on my screen here. Here, what did that do? It cleared it right up.
Good. Okay.
Oh no. See, it's yeah, it's. I could close the curtain a bit. There, that's good. It's done.
Okay.
There. There's always a solution. So a heartfelt apology, and so we told the story about this one lady, Lynn, is her last name. Sister Lynn, she's not Jehovah's Witness. She's left. She's like 65, and she was child sex CSA at 5 years old. Brought it forth, hasn't been heard until now. And it's terrible. And now she can't get an apology. Anyways, it's coming. Regarding the issue of accepted blood transfusions and blood components, we hereby announce that henceforth these matters will be one of personal conscience. And that should be the way it is. It shouldn't be pushed. There should be no blood cards. That stuff should all just go away, disappear. And I want to talk about this at the very end of this program. And if you're hanging up or you're on and off, come back and watch the very end. It's the best part of the program. And some of you may have seen what I'm going to show. Now, we're going ahead here regarding blood transfusion, regarding the issue of military service now. This is interesting. Regarding the issue of military service. So you think right now, we ran some articles what's going on in Korea. And these poor Jehovah's Witness kids have to do 36 months of special like jail because they didn't do 18 months of military service. So, and then what's happening in other parts of the world and all the ones that have died. Like it's almost like, it's like not taking blood. It's like killing off people, martyring off people for regardless. And it's just not right. And that's why if you look below on all of our videos, we have a petition in Canada to stop charities going to groups like this. And by the way, thanks for all your help. We're almost at 500, and my good wife has taken this to the next level. So now, regarding the issues of military service, alternate, and this going back to the letter, alternative military service or political or civic affairs or law enforcement careers and other similar matters, these also we believe to be a matter of individual conscience. And that's the way it should be. Should always be like that. Brothers and sisters, these matters discussed above are only a few of the most important changes which we felt crucial to convey to you at this time. We intend to address each of these matters and many other adjustments to our beliefs and organization more fully and in depth in future issues of the Watchtower over the coming years, as well as on our website, jw.org. We thank you in advance for your patience and hope that you welcome these changes with a loving and generous spirit. And now that I'm going to read you this next part. They talk about a reorganization of all the local congregations. And they say a reorganization of the local congregation. As expediently as possible, all local kingdom halls will be deeded over to the individual congregations. The local congregation should immediately begin to take steps to form itself into an individual legal entity in order to take ownership of the property. Where there are many more than one congregation currently sharing the kingdom hall, only one legal entity need be created in order to take legal ownership of the property. Help from the legal desk is available, and a separate letter to the body of elders is following, containing more information about this adjustment. Within 30 days of this letter, each congregation should meet together as a group and elect among itself a body of elders to serve in the leadership capacity of the local congregation. It is advised that the local body be comprised of no less than 5 members, and if possible, and no more than 12. However, this is only a suggestion to the congregation. The exact composition of such elder body, the selection of ministerial servants, or other helpers is to be decided upon by the entire congregation in democratic order. So, they could do a vote or something like that. It could be a private vote. And it should be noted that these leadership positions are to be deemed open to all whom the local congregation consider are suitable, and not to be restricted on the basis of gender, age, nationality, sexuality, so now women could be elders, or other factors. And that's the way it should be. The body of elders are hereby directed to immediately, permanently dispose of all publisher record cards, and are further directed to keep no official rolls of the memberships of the local congregations. Yeah, why do we need to have records? I know that my records for the 30 years I was in the organization are sitting in some kingdom hall. I know which one, where they were shipped to, but what do you do? They keep your records. So they say they destroy them. Maybe they destroyed them. I think they keep them. Now it says the body of elders are to dispose of all publisher record cards and keep no official rolls of people. And for the use at the local level of matters of practicality, the body of elders may keep unofficial lists including contacts of people. And more information regarding this adjustment will follow. So yeah, if there's a friendship letter or a friendship list, where you had people wanted, if they wanted to leave their phone number, they could, but they don't have to. I could go to any religious organization, any church, and they don't have to have my phone number. They don't even have to know my name. And I can go there all year if I wanted. So anyways, right now, the Jehovah's Witnesses are a way too high control. Now, it goes on to say, with regard to the hallmark facet of our worldwide brotherhood, namely that of public and house-to-house ministry, we are in preparation of a series of study articles of the Watchtower for your consideration. Well, it cannot be denied that over the history of Jehovah's modern-day organization, the techniques of spreading the good news about God's kingdom through our public ministry and individual proselytizing has resulted in the gathering of many persons to the faith. It must also be acknowledged that these methods are no longer the most effective. No more door-to-door? Indeed, there are many brothers who have spent a lifetime in full-time pioneer work or otherwise devoted countless hours to their ministry, with not more than a few non-family members every accepting the good word or the good news and choosing to dedicate their lives to Jehovah. And that's the way it was. I pioneered for the whole 3.5 years, and my 2 kids got baptized. That's it. I couldn't even get one outsider hardly going. Anyways, it's the truth of it. Thousands of hours, thousands of dollars spent in the ministry. What? Because I forced my kids to get baptized, and then one of them didn't quit after. So rather than continuing to burden our brothers and sisters with onerous, how do you say that? Onerous requirements, big requirements, that's what that word means. Onerous requirements. So, I don't like that word. Rather than giving the burden to the brothers and sisters with these huge requirements to engage in the public ministry and continuing to create an atmosphere and culture of perfection and service which can never be met, and which seems to be more often the resultant feeling of self-doubt, guilt, and even desperation, that the focus on becoming a person of high moral character and joyful in life will draw others who may be interested to inquire of us for the reasons of our joy and exceptional attitude and character. We all know that it's all false. When we're Jehovah's Witness, we put on this big smile, and it's not real. It's not real. So anyways, what they're saying in this letter, they want to just get rid of all that self-doubt, all that, the burden from the ministry, and you have to be better to put more hours in and all of that stuff. It has to go away. So then it goes on to say, as will be discussed in future study editions of the Watchtower and as information in future letters to the congregations that follow will discuss, we are entering into a great revolution of our worldwide association of Christian Jehovah's Witnesses. We purpose to return our brotherhood to a time which more closely resembles the early beginnings of our organization as Bible students, with a return to local control many of the ordinary facets of our worship, including determining the time, place, and manner of gathering of the congregation. Isn't that interesting? So maybe this letter is promoted by the Bible students. Like, I know nothing about the Bible students, and apparently there's about 50,000 of them out there. So maybe they're trying to gain a comeback, and this is how they're doing it, but hopefully we'll find out. Let's carry on. It says a future study article of the Watchtower, which may be considered only as suggested as a suggested model of the organization of local meetings of the congregation, is in preparation for your consideration. So this letter is as if it's coming from JW.org to the whole world, and it's saying get ready for something. Now it's saying the next title here is reorganization of the worldwide association. It says, "Dear brothers, it is with great joy and anticipation that we announce to you now a grand restructuring of the various branch offices of the Worldwide Association of Jehovah's Witnesses, including the worldwide headquarters at Warwick, New York. Henceforth, Watchtower will continue to serve Worldwide Association of Jehovah's Witnesses in the following ways. They will continue to create and publish various publications, including the Watchtower and the Awake magazine, the New World Translation of Holy Scriptures, various other Bible-based literatures, including several planned commentaries on the Scriptures and other publications. Hard copies of these publications will be available for purchase from Watchtower by individual, and many will be freely available on jw.org. Continuing to produce and publish various written and video content for our internet broadcast and website on jw.org. The training of missionaries to serve in foreign lands to spread the good news of God's kingdom. And the training of traveling speakers which may be requested by local congregations to visit and deliver talks on prepared Bible subjects. Now, the organization and the coordination of the annual assemblies, which individuals or congregations as a whole may choose to attend. And please note that the Watchtower will no longer be considered mandatory study material as a congregation after the last planned study version of the Watchtower, containing discussions of the changes and adjustments mentioned in this letter. And the time is to be determined, it says. Now it goes on to say, while we believe that this article, that the articles will continue to provide or prove to be fortifying and educational, the individual congregations will organize how to structure their weekly gatherings and the materials to be considered as a congregation. So what this tells me is there's no more kingdom ministry that dictates how you're going to run your meetings at your kingdom hall, because that's how it's done today. The Watchtower tries to get everyone doing the same thing. And what's good about this is every country is different. Every Nigeria might have different needs than we have over here in Canada and the US and so forth. So that would be a change that would be good. Now it closes off in saying, we thank you in advance for your attention to the contents of this letter, and we hope that you embrace these adjustments to our worldwide brotherhood in the same generous spirit as you have always expressed in the past. We believe that the future of our worldwide association is strong, provided that we continue to grow and mature and progress in our greater understanding of Jehovah God's purposes and activities. Please accept our love and tender greetings, your brothers, the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. What a beautiful letter. They retracted it. So the news magazine retracted this letter 1 month later, but it was a beautiful letter. How did it get into the news article? So my mind is one that goes in different directions. I'm working here on this channel as an activist. I was in the organization for 30 years. I have the privilege, it's a privilege I now understand, to be able to talk online freely. And not everyone has that privilege. Not everyone can do this because there's too much loss, too much to lose. And we also, what I'm realizing is we need people on the inside. And as the Watchtower starts to crumble, people want something to believe in. And if they want something to believe in, I thought this letter was worth sharing. I thought it was worth sharing. This is a beautiful letter. It looks to me like it was done someone high up in the organization, and or could it be something that they're working on? I don't know. So it's hard to say. We see things changing in the Watchtower all over the world. That's why I don't disregard all news. And this news, I'm still going to investigate. And I will share, but up until now, I want everyone to know that this has been retracted, this letter that I read, that was in this newspaper, and the newspaper journal retracted everything a month later. So we'll do more investigating as we look into this. Now, I wanted to end up here, here. And we think of making changes, and I put on my thumbnail, what would you do if you could change something in the Watchtower right now? Let's say you're in the organization, but you're not in it. You don't believe in any of it, but you're trapped. Maybe you sit at home most of the time. Maybe one of your family members goes to the hall. I'm not sure, but it's got to be tough. So if there was something like this that could unify, I would say, that letter goes out. Here's the next piece of information I would throw out to all the congregations in the world. Go to this guy's site. I featured him on one of my other videos, and I since emailed the fellow. I can't release his name. He asked to stay anonymous, and he's doing work. I don't know anything really about this guy. I can't tell you guys anything. All I can show you is his site, and it's a beautiful site. He has only 6 videos, and he almost has 1,000 subscribers. We want to help this fella out. He has 726. Once he gets to 1,000, then he can start to grow his channel in a different way, and it takes a long time to grow a channel. And so we want to help him out. Now, I went to the About, and you can go to his Watchtower Help Club, and he's made a lot of articles. And what I do know about this guy, and I can share with you, is that he did serve in the New York Bethel. I can tell you that. So I'm not going to say anything more, but he said he's working on a video about Caleb and what's that those cartoons that they're using with the kids. But this one, I think, this video I'm going to show you is the Anthony Morris near-death experience.
Everyone knows that cats are picky.
And
however, sometimes it's more serious than your cat
here.
The man
So
has
YouTube
internal
can
bleeding.
get paid. Now I'm gonna actually go off the screen here, and I'm gonna actually blow this video up so you can see the whole thing. And now I'm gonna shut my mic off, and I'll probably forget to turn it back on. But anyways, this video, what I do want to say is, here I am again. This video, if you follow through on it, and you may want to go to this guy's site, Watchtower Admin, go to his site, Watchtower Help Admin, and you can just plug that into YouTube and subscribe to his site. He has other videos that are funny. He does some really good work. But when I watched this video, I thought if I was going to start help Jehovah's people out, it's not Jehovah's, yeah, help God's people out within the Jehovah's Witness religion, this would be one of the first videos I would give everyone for debriefing, because it's perfectly done. So enjoy it, and I'm going to get off the screen here. Yes. Pardon me? And I'll see you back in a few minutes.
Nurse, isn't this our DWI patient? I ordered 2 units of blood, a CAT scan, and booking the OR for emergency surgery. Nurse, isn't this our DWI patient? I ordered 2 units of blood, a CAT scan, and booking the OR for emergency surgery. The man has internal bleeding, so there's no time to lose. What's he still doing here? It looks like you've done nothing. He's not even hooked up to oxygen. What? He's a Jew?
No, not a Jew, a JW, a Jehovah's Witness. They're the ones who won't take blood. So, Dr. Henderson said it was pointless to do anything else, because without blood, he'll be dead in a few minutes no matter what we do.
The man came in unconscious. How do you know he's a JW?
He had one of these. I recognize it from other patients I've seen. And our chaplain, Pastor Russ, has seen the patient on the internet.
Yes, it's Anthony Morris III. He's one of their leaders, the governing body they call themselves. He's a real stickler on their prohibition on blood.
Well, page Dr. Charles and ask him to declare the man incompetent to make his own medical decisions. Then give him the blood, stat.
No! You can't do that! That's a violation of the laws of God and man.
Excuse me, but who are you? A family member?
I'm Fred Krantz of the HLC, the Hospital Liaison Committee. I'm here to ensure this man's wishes are honored and his rights are respected, and to explain to you what blood fractions he can and cannot accept in order to maintain his integrity to Jehovah, our God.
A lawyer?
No.
Has the patient legally given you power of attorney?
Well, no.
Then you have no business being here. Get out of here before I call security. This man's life is in danger, and you're wasting our time.
No. Brother Morris would want me here, defending his religious freedom.
It's all a mistake, though. You know, your ban on blood. It's not against God's law to accept blood.
Oh, I'd expect as much from a clergyman. Have you never read Acts chapter 15? For the Holy Spirit and we ourselves have favored adding no further burden to you except these necessary things, to keep abstaining from things sacrificed to idols, from blood, from what is strangled, and from sexual immorality. If you carefully keep yourselves from these things, you will prosper. Good health to you. Injecting blood into your veins is not abstaining from blood.
Yes, I have read that. Have you ever read Leviticus 19 verse 19?
You should keep my statutes. You must not interbreed two sorts of your domestic animals. You must not sow your field with two sorts of seed, and you must not wear a garment made with two sorts of thread mixed together.
Care to show us the label on your suit?
I'll bet it violates that last biblical rule.
It's a wool and silk blend. So what? That's from the Mosaic Law. That law passed away with Jesus' sacrifice. It's not binding on Christians today.
Oh, so you're saying that we must consider the context of a scripture, and not just yank it out and follow it as if it necessarily applies to us today?
Of course.
So then, maybe if we considered the context of abstain from blood, it would reveal the fact that it too is not something binding on Christians today. In the first place, this is not a commandment from God or Jesus. It is the words of someone named James. Who is this James, and why should we assume that he had any business encumbering Christians with such rules? When Jesus was asked what the commandments were, did he mention any of these dietary restrictions? No, he did not. He stated two commandments to rule all behavior, to love God and to love your neighbor. So, why would James, as a follower of Christ, take it upon himself to add extra commandments? The fact is, he wouldn't. No real Christian would. So, what was going on here? Well, the first verse of that chapter in the book of Acts gives us the answer. It tells us that certain men, known as Judaizers, were insisting that Gentile Christians needed to get circumcised. The meeting, related in Acts 15, was called to decide the matter. James disagreed with the need for circumcision, but in order to appease the Judaizers, decided to caution Gentile Christians against violating the more publicly obvious of the Jewish customs, such as engaging in lewd behavior, eating meat sacrificed to idols, or eating meat that had not been properly bled. The Bible clearly states that this was the reason for the decision, not that it was a commandment from God that involved a Christian salvation, but rather because, according to verse 21, From ancient times Moses has had those who preach him in city after city, because he is read aloud in the synagogues on every Sabbath. The advice was that these practices be abstained from, because Jews certainly would consider the eating of such meats as participating in heathen idolatry. Christian freedom did not obligate one to follow the dietary laws of the Jews. Paul makes this crystal clear in 1 Corinthians, chapters 8 and 10, where he writes that he, as a Christian, is perfectly free to eat meat sacrificed to idols. Nevertheless, it was advisable that the Gentile Christians abstain from the use of their liberty in this matter, out of deference to the weaker brethren, Jews and Gentiles, who could not so deeply philosophize and whose consciences might be injured. A similar thought attaches to the prohibition of the use of blood. To the Jew it was forbidden, and under his covenant it was made a symbol of life. To partake of it would imply responsibility for the life taken. These prohibitions had never come to the Gentiles, because they had never been under the law covenant, but so deeply rooted were the Jewish ideas on this subject that it was necessary to the peace of the church that the Gentiles should observe this matter also. If they did not wish to be contentious and cause divisions in the church, the Gentile brethren would surely be willing to restrain or sacrifice their liberty respecting these matters. However, today there are no Jews or Christians, outside of the Jehovah's Witnesses, who would be stumbled by a Christian having a blood transfusion. So, the rationale behind the request that James made no longer exists. Therefore, Christians are free to have blood transfusions.
Well, that's certainly a pretty speech. But it's wrong. Gentiles were prohibited from blood, even though they were never under the Mosaic law. Being descendants of Noah, they came under the everlasting covenant made with Noah after the flood. Didn't you make it past chapter 4 of Genesis in your seminary? There we read God's command. Only flesh with its life, its blood, you must not eat.
I can comment on that. In Hebrew school, we were taught from the Talmud that this means that we are not to eat flesh from a living being, not to bite into an animal that is alive, with its life still in it.
Interesting, I hadn't considered that before, yet that's literally what the verse says. It's a prohibition against eating a certain type of flesh, living flesh. It's not a prohibition against blood at all.
Oh, that's just hair-splitting semantics. It's obvious that God wants us all to abstain from blood.
Well, there's another verse in the Bible that contradicts your idea that Gentiles were forbidden to eat blood. In Deuteronomy 14 verse 21 we read,
You must not eat any animal that was found dead. You may give it to the foreign resident who is inside your cities, and he may eat it, or it may be sold to a foreigner. For you are a holy people to Jehovah your God.
An animal found dead would not have been properly bled. That's why a Jew could not eat it, being part of a holy people under a covenant with God, but the verse tells us that a non-Jew could eat it, blood and all. Surely you haven't been sacrificing people's lives on the basis of such flimsy misinterpretations of Scripture. Have you?
No, there's more to it than that. We see a consistent pattern throughout the Bible of God condemning the eating of blood. Leviticus 17 verse 14 is another clear instance.
Leviticus? Isn't that part of the Mosaic law?
You know it is.
But you already said, when I mentioned that your apparel violates that law, that Christians are no longer under that law. Is that correct? Or did I misunderstand you?
You didn't misunderstand. But I'm not using Leviticus here as a law, but as a principle. God hates the use of blood.
Yet he created vampire bats, mosquitoes, and a host of other creatures who cannot survive without eating blood. He allowed Gentiles to eat unbled animals, and he allowed Paul, under inspiration, to state that a Christian could eat anything sold in the market without being concerned that they might be eating meat sacrificed to idols or meat from an unbled animal. Why would that be, if he hated it so much?
Well, I don't claim to know everything. All I know is that if we try to save our life by violating God's laws, then we'll lose our everlasting life. That's a deeply held religious conviction that I'm sure even you gentlemen can appreciate.
No! I can't appreciate it at all. In Hebrew school, we learned the rabbinic principle known as pikwach nefesh. Saving life supersedes God's law.
That's wonderful. But we're Christians, not Jews.
Oh, But Jesus lived by this principle as well. It's taught to us in Matthew chapter 12.
At that season, Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath. His disciples got hungry and began to pluck heads of grain and to eat. At seeing this, the Pharisees said to him, "Look, your disciples are doing what it is not lawful to do on the Sabbath." He said to them, "Have you not read what David did when he and the men with him got hungry? How he entered into the house of God, and they ate the loaves of presentation, food it was not lawful for him to eat, nor for those with him, but for the priests only."
Jesus didn't believe that one should starve to death before breaking a commandment. His actions and teaching show that he believed that God's commandments could be broken in life or death situations. As he said, the law was made for man, and not man for the law. It was meant to be a help in living a good life, not a cause for death. Your own Watchtower magazine reached the same conclusion when commenting on these verses, stating that
Jesus was calling attention to acts of mercy on the Sabbath day, that it was perfectly legitimate to render a show of mercy to one who is in need even though it was the Sabbath, and that there is, in effect, no violation of the Sabbath by such course of action.
So, even if you still mistakenly think that accepting blood violates God's law, then this principle should show you that when it comes to saving a life, there is no violation.
Okay, so at this point in the video, I'm saying that if we were to document this part of the video, and this part of the video is all documented in a book. And this guy wrote a book. He's anonymous. We don't know who he is, under a pen name. And the book, I'll show you where you can find the book. But the logic in here is just phenomenal. This is some stuff that I've never heard of. And I think it's just really good logic. So here's a guy that was served in New York Bethel, got out of the organization for whatever reason, and now put out this material. Amazing. It's almost like it's coming out at the right time to teach everybody. So now I want to go back, and because I have his permission, I'm going to play right through on the whole video. And let's just go back here. Get me out of here. We're going to see what happens. Anthony Moritz here. The buzzer went off.
Name?
Anthony Morris III. Don't you recognize me? I'm a member of the governing body.
Governing. What? Body.
You must be joking. The Jehovah's Witnesses, of course.
The Jehovah's. What? Oh, never mind. Here you are. No, this isn't right. You're not supposed to be here for a few years yet. What happened?
Evidently, I was in a car accident. I think I drove into a tree or something.
I see. It seems you may have had a bit too much to drink. The record isn't clear on that. But, according to this, you were supposed to survive that incident.
Well, I probably would have, if I had violated my faith and accepted a blood transfusion.
Okay. Head that way. All early arrivals have to see the boss.
Hi there, Jesus. It's Anthony. I'm ready to be in heaven. Just give me a horse and a sword and we can get this Armageddon thing going. Can't wait to smell those human hot dogs, Oslo.
Tony, my son, I'm afraid we can't let you in. You've got blood on your hands.
What? Whose blood? I tell you I'm innocent of the blood of all men.
Do you remember Joshua Walker?
Oh sure, that little fella. He stuck to his guns, just like me, and refused blood. I paid tribute to his faith at a convention in 2016.
And he died, long before his time. We had big plans for him. What about Dennis Lindbergh?
I don't remember him.
He was a 14-year-old who died refusing blood back in 2007. I could give you thousands of such names, but you probably wouldn't even recognize them.
We just told people about God's law concerning blood. The rest was their personal decision.
Children aren't capable of making such life and death decisions based on your convoluted reasoning. You and your cohorts are blood guilty. You used your undue influence to coerce children, and their parents, into giving up their lives.
Well, should we have told them to disobey God's law? Saving their lives just to lose their everlasting lives?
Don't you remember my telling the Pharisees, I want mercy, and not sacrifice? You were just like them, always making more rules about ever smaller minutiae, but missing the spirit of things. Imagine issuing edicts about what fractions of blood are acceptable. When did I ever mention blood fractions? Where is it in any page of your enormous Bible? I said that my load was kindly and light. I taught about forgiveness and love. I said the entire law could be summed up by love. There is nothing loving in forcing a parent to withhold life-saving medical care from their child. Love trumps laws, even what you imagine to be God's laws. But you didn't understand that. You presumed to tell your followers that God wanted sacrifice, not mercy. I said that nothing that enters a person can defile him. Didn't you realize that this includes blood? Only what comes out of a person can defile him. Words that lead to death, such as the words in the watchtower demanding the sacrifice of children's lives on your altar of blood. These words have defiled you, and made you unfit to be in my sight any longer.
Wait! I demand to see your supervisor. Take me to Jehovah to plead my case.
Who? Oh, yeah, you're that group that still believes in the war god of the ancient Israelites and Canaanites.
You were a Jew. You also believed in Jehovah, didn't you?
No. Why do you think I never mentioned him? Yahweh was a cruel, angry, vengeful God, whom I wanted nothing to do with. I tried to turn men's thoughts to a loving, heavenly Father figure, whom they could emulate. You emulated Jehovah. No wonder you're eager to fight a war.
Oh, geez.
What?
Sorry. I mean, well, what happens now? To me?
Well, there's one thing you guys got right. Death is the absence of life, and nothing survives it. In a moment you will cease to exist.
Brother Morris! Morris! Will someone nudge him awake?
What?
We're voting, brother. Everyone else has their hand up already.
Oh. Remind me, what is it we're voting on?
To approve this letter to the HLC elders, reaffirming our stance on the importance of preventing blood transfusions in babies, the group most commonly in need of them.
Wait a minute. I had a dream. Wow. All about the blood doctrine.
Was it a revelation?
No. It wasn't anything I didn't know already. Besides, we don't believe Jehovah communicates to us anymore in dreams. I'll make it unanimous. I vote yes.
Okay, folks. I will just put myself back on the screen here and drag myself over a bit here. What did you think of that? Yep. Mic's on. So what did you guys think of that video? Watchtower Help Admin. And I'm going to go here. I'm going to see if I can find this book. And I'm going to order the book. I haven't ordered it yet, but I'm going to order it. It's right, where is it? Right here. And this is the book in the video. Yes? Yeah. You guys have a lag, so when I'm talking here, my good wife is in the back office watching, and there's this lag. So sometimes she's... You won't miss me for more than a minute or two for the lag if I forget my mic. So far I didn't forget my mic today. Now, I'm going to show you this book here, display capture, and I'm going to move myself over again here. There we go. So now, if you look at this book here, Jehovah's Witnesses, A Gentle Self-Deprogramming Guide, the Undoing the Undue Influence of the Watchtower. And this is where some of that reasoning is that we've seen in that video. Now, this is his website. You can go right to his website if you want. It's called Watchtower Help Club. And again, we don't know who this guy is. It's fully anonymous, and he's not even monetizing any of his sites. There's nowhere you could even contribute. This guy doesn't want to be seen, or talk. Doesn't want to be public. But he has all of this information. There's some really excellent other videos, but this one, the near-death experience of Anthony Moritz that we just watched, you can go right to his website and watch it, or you can watch it right on his YouTube site. And he is working on other stuff. I think for anybody coming out of the organization, I think this book is a must. I'm going to order it. And it has the same logic that we've seen in this video. And I love the logic. And here this is a guy that worked in the New York Bethel. Now, I don't know a lot about him, and I don't want to put pressure this fella. I just want him to keep doing this great work. And I want to know that we are all behind you, whoever you are. Thank you for this. And we're going to spread the word and share this with everyone. And it's timely. And I think it's timely. If we've seen letters that are hitting the newspaper in Nigeria, they're retracting it. But could you imagine, something's happening in the organization. Someone gets arrested in headquarters, like something crumbles this organization. They're going to have a plan, and maybe something's in the works. Who knows? But what we're trying to do is bring you guys accurate news, and of course, as we investigated this, whatever is said to be happening, it's not on JW.org. What we could be getting is maybe just misinformation. Could be just that simple. It sure looks like it was done up by Bethel or the Watchtower, but maybe it was. It could be maybe someone left at a higher level with the ability to write something like this, and they're like an apostate but don't want to be seen as an apostate, and they put this forth as news. I'm not sure. I am still investigating. I do have an email going to the source. And they're a legitimate company, so I think they should give us what we're asking for. I hope, because we could work with these guys in Nigeria and help as online creators, helping people coming out of the Watchtower. So whoever's watching, you're coming out of the Watchtower. This to me, I couldn't write anything better than what this fella did here. So he covers just about every thing that you might asked about the resurrection, JW, the blood issue. It's all here without buying the book. He's giving it all up to everyone. I'm going to buy his book because I want to support this fella somehow. And I do want to read his story in his book. So if this is his book, I don't know. Just like I say, we don't know. I go back to the beginning. Be free. We don't know who is behind this either. Anonymous. But the work is just terrific. The resources are just terrific. And to think that this stuff is coming, potentially from the organization coming back to help people out. And I think that's why we know for sure the Watchtower is crumbling. And we've seen what's happening in Norway. Will the Watchtower appeal in Norway? They have 1 month. That's yet to be said. But they had 2 weeks to pay the fine or the court fees, and that was worked out to about 20. It wasn't much, 25,000 US or 250,000 in their currency, krones. But we'll be following it, and we'll be keeping you guys abreast. And I have one of the best researchers in the industry right here, my good wife. I thank her every day. And I thank all you guys for watching the program. And you guys are the inspiration that keep these things going. So, and we like all the comments, good or bad. We know as creators, we publish some of this stuff and we get some videos going and it can get people excited, but we're excited. I was in the organization for 30 years. I'd love nothing more than to see some change and reunite before I die, reunite with some good old friends. There's a lot of good friends, and I hope perhaps some of you guys are watching are good friends. Perhaps some family I can't talk to, I haven't talked to for 12 years. And it's sad, but it's the way it is. We know that when we come out. But to keep this on a lighter level, we have a little bit of a song for you. So I hope you enjoy it. And we look forward to seeing you next time on Saturday. We have a show on Saturday at 2:30 Mountain Standard Time. And sometimes that hits people differently. So we've had some good attendance. So we talk a little bit more there about religion. So until next time, folks, keep living your life with love. And just like that ex-brother put in that video, that's all Jesus asks is for us to live our life with love. He says the load is light, but the Watchtower made it heavy. So here we go. Our last of it. Bye for now. Well, guys, thanks for the nice show, and join me.